Hello. I've been trying to make this video for a few days now, and we had a long weekend and I just don't have the light in my own apartment to do anything. I have a very dark basement apartment, and so I've had to wait until I get back to work and try and do it from here. God, my eyes are so baggy. My eyes have been watering the last few days. I don't know why. And now just look at those bags. Gosh, you're horrible. I went and had my eyebrows touched up this weekend, so they are really dark. Can't wait till they fade out a little bit. So actually this weekend, so I'm gonna touch on that a little bit. We had a little excitement here in Hawaii. If you're watching in January of 2018, you'll know what I'm talking about. The missile crisis alarm alert, or the missile alert went out. Okay, sorry about that. I film on my iPhone and I hate it when I get phone calls that interrupt the filming. Okay, so the missile alert went out on Saturday and kind of freaked everybody out, and I happened to be in Chinatown getting the eyebrows touched up. I was early, so I was downstairs shopping at Kimmy's, one of my favorite stores. It's in Mauna Kea Plaza in Chinatown, and they just have everything. It is just such a cool little, I mean, it's a tourist Chinatown kind of store, but they have jewelry and trinkets and figurines. They have clothing. It's kind of like your one-stop shop in Chinatown for anything except food. And so I got like a keychain and a little figurine for health. You know, it's supposed to signify good health, and the good luck cat on my keychain. So I'm not a strong believer, but every little bit helps, you know. So I was in there shopping when everybody's phones were going off a little after 8 a.m. and nobody knew what to do. I assumed it was a flood alert. I didn't even look at my phone. We get flood alerts all the time here. And so I didn't even look at my phone. And then the owner of the store, or I think she was the owner, but she says, there's a missile coming. And I was like, what? You know, what are you talking about, missile coming? And so, you know, then I look at my phone and it's the missile alert. And when I looked outside, everybody's just standing around looking at their phones. Nobody's doing anything. And none of us knew what to do. You know, we're in the middle of Chinatown, these old decrepit buildings. You would think Hawaii would have bomb shelters because of the war. No, they don't. That's one thing England got right, is they built bomb shelters. We do not have bomb shelters. And the only one I know of is at Diamond Head, and that's strictly for military. And there are probably some on the military bases, but of course, you know, we're peons. We don't have access to those. So we just kind of all stood around for like 10 minutes not knowing what to do. You only have, they said, 12 to 15 minutes to do whatever you're going to do before the missile strikes. Once you get the alert, you have 12 to 15 minutes. It's not enough time for me to go home and be with my angel Tucker. So I was just kind of lost. It was like, that was my biggest regret, that I was not at home and to be with Tucker when this happened, and that he was going to die alone, that I was going to die alone, that, you know. And so I called my daughter in Oregon. I told her what was going on. So once I had her on the phone, I started shaking and kind of freaking out a little bit. And so then she's on the phone freaking out. And so we talked for, 5 minutes or so. And at that point, it was kind of like, okay, you know, I don't know what to do, so I'm just going to pay for my stuff and I'm going to go upstairs and get my eyebrows done. And by the time I got upstairs, my daughter texted me and said it's a false alarm. And I had a message on my phone that said it was a false alarm. I have two phones, and my other phone did not have the message. Nobody else had gotten the message, but my daughter had looked it up online and found that it was a false alarm. You know, she Googled it or something and found it was a false alarm. And I was showing it to people saying, look, false alarm, you know, it's a false alarm. We can go back to our lives. But, you know, by this time, everybody's doing whatever they're doing. They're shopping and eating and, you know, everybody's pretty much gone back to their normal lives. So I was sitting at the salon. There's some guy who's getting a pedicure, and we started talking. You know, he was on the phone with his wife when I got up there, and so, you know, I told him false alarm, and he told her, and they ended their phone call, and we started talking about all the military stuff, and he told me some interesting stuff. It was really kind of neat, about these tunnels that are under the bases, and I haven't looked any of it up, but it's kind of interesting. And, you know, eventually we all got the phone messages saying it was a false alarm, but it took 40 minutes. That's where I have the issue. It's not that there was a mistake made that said there was a missile coming. Mistakes happen. I really feel sorry for the guy. He's had to be reassigned. He's gotten death threats, which I think is just intolerable. Nobody, you know, somebody makes a mistake, they should not get a death threat over it. But, you know, and think about how the guy feels. You know, oh my God, you know, I caused all this mass hysteria. Well, that's, you know, that's bad. You know, the mistake was made, the mistake was bad. Let's deal with it. Let's get an announcement out there within seconds, within, you know, 2 minutes at the most. That's all it took them to know it was a false alarm. And they posted on Facebook that it was a false alarm. I'm sorry, when I get a message saying there's a missile coming and this is not a drill, the last thing I'm going to do is go on Facebook and check my status. You know, I want another message on my phone telling me, oops, sorry, this wasn't real. So that's what they need to get right. And, you know, the fact that people on the mainland knew before we knew that it was a mistake, that's just unconscionable. And so that's where my whole issue is the choices that were made after the mistake happened. And now everybody's kind of trying to sidestep that and just focus on how the mistake happened. Well, you know, well, yeah, you know, you need to figure out how the mistake happened. But at the same time, I think the broader issue is the delayed response in the correction, because that's where all the mass hysteria happened. You had, you know, I saw on the news that night, you know, people running. I guess there was people on the highway abandoned their cars and went to hide in tunnels. You know, that's just crazy. There was no need for any of that. People that were freaking out and throwing things into their bathrooms, you know, getting all their food supplies ready and scaring their kids, and it was just all so unnecessary. But, you know, we're still here. And now we keep waiting for the next one. And the question is, if there is a missile attack, we get the alert, the sirens go off, is anybody going to believe it? You know, I don't know that I will. And I guess there were some people who were here during Pearl Harbor. I'm elderly now, but they were little kids when they were here at Pearl Harbor and remember the sirens, they remember the bombs, and they have had real panic attacks and post-stress syndrome kind of things going on, and that's just so bad. So it's been a crazy weekend here, and now it's kind of over. We still have to deal with fallout from it. At work, we have to create a whole new emergency plan just for the missile thing, which we really should have done when they first announced that they were going to have this missile siren go off a few months ago, but we didn't. And so now that it's actually happened, we have to get something in place. Luckily, we have we're in a 10-story building, but we are right on Waikiki, so we're kind of really in the zone for a missile strike. And we do have an interior stairwell that we can rush all the tenants into, but I don't know that the building would remain standing, because my guess is that they'll hit the coast, try and getting Pearl Harbor, and I don't know. I honestly, even though my house is, or the apartment I live in, the house is kind of it's an old house from the 40s or 50s, and would not withstand much of anything. I think I'd feel safer up there than I would in the building down here. So I don't know. Anyway, so now on to the chemo. My chemo was I guess it's been 3 weeks now. No, 2 weeks. Sorry, 2 weeks, because I have it next week. Next week will be my last one. So, sorry, excuse me. I have had the watery eyes, drippy nose. I'm not sure if I'm getting allergies, like a hay fever kind of allergy. It seems like the wrong time of year, but in Hawaii it's kind of year round. So I don't normally get hay fever kind of stuff. So I don't know if this is connected to the chemo, if it's something entirely different, if it's just, it's affecting me because my immune system is down. I don't know. So a couple of weeks ago, I had the chemo. My throat started feeling scratchy that evening, which was what happened the time before. That was on Wednesday, day 1. On day 3, my head started feeling just like really tight and throbbing, just kind of like something was clamping onto it. About 2:30 in the afternoon, I started to get just tired and worn down. I never got that hit in the truck feeling again. Thank goodness. I think that might be a first time chemo thing, and I don't know if that's across the board or if that's just because I have a lighter version of the chemo than a lot of people get. Again, stage 1, they caught it right away. I had I forget what the biometrics are about, positive, negative, but I'm in the common category where like 80% of cancer patients are in this category. And so, I just got this kind of, plus I'm over 50, so I get this kind of lighter dose than if I were 30 and stage 4. So on Saturday, day 4, itching started, and I'm not doing the injections this time. So that was one thing my doctor and I agreed upon, was that I don't have to do the injections this time because my immune system has been good. My blood counts have remained up, and so we were going to try this time and see if it went okay without the injections. And so the itching started on my neck. It was just a little bit, wasn't really bad. So Saturday, day 4, I was tired. I had that head throbbing. My tongue started getting fuzzy again. You know, it's like it just starts clearing up. The taste still isn't there, but the fuzziness starts going away, and then I have chemo and it all comes back again. Day 5, Sunday, same thing. The headache, the neck was itching just a little bit more, still not a lot, but it kind of started spreading. I got these wicked, my lips were getting dry, and I got these horrible, horrible cracks in the corner of my mouth. And just painful. Every time I opened my mouth, it just hurt, and it was like they split open again every time. And then on day 6, Monday, the cracks got even worse. You know, if I in front of a mirror, you could see open sores where it just, you know, like during the night, it would dry in the lips and the cracks would dry into place, and then when I opened my mouth in the morning, they would just break open. The hives started on Monday morning. I could feel the hives coming up, so I took a Zyrtec, and within half an hour the itching was gone. The dry peeling lips along with the cracks, those were like the worst things, with this itching and the dry lips and the cracking this time. I hadn't had the cracking before. That was horrible. Day 7, Tuesday, I continued the Zyrtec, and the lips were still horrible. I'd been using bag balm on my lips. When I got the cracks, I switched back to Vaseline. I didn't know if the bag balm had anything to do with that or not. The reason I use bag balm is that when my daughter was in middle school, she would get really bad chapped lips where it was just red all the way around. You know, we lived in a cold, dry environment, and when the wind blew, she'd just get these really bad lips, and then she'd lick them, you know, like we always do when they tell us not to, and they just get worse and worse. And bag balm was the only thing that would help cure that. And so when I started getting the dry lips, that's when I got the bag balm, and it was working really great until I got those cracks. And so I didn't know if the bag balm had something to do with that, or because I've never used it steadily. I've used it off and on for a long time, but I've never used it steadily like I was using it every day and several times a day. I usually use Vaseline on my lips. I'm just, you know, it's something I started doing, high school, junior high, you know, way long time ago, and it's like I'm addicted to it. And I hate to use the term addicted, but for something like Vaseline, but it's the only thing that makes my lips feel any semblance of normal. And so when I started getting the cracks, I went back to the Vaseline. I got those healed, and now I'm doing the bag balm again, and so far no cracks. On day 8, which was Wednesday, the itching was getting better, but I still took another Zyrtec that day. The taste, the tongue, still. The dry peeling lips, the cracks were getting a little bit better. My head was still throbbing. I did have a minute of queasiness that day. I just probably didn't last more than a minute or two, but it was there. Day 9, the itching was almost gone. You know, I wasn't when I woke up, it was just like a little scratch kind of itch, so I didn't take any Zyrtec that day. The tongue still thing, and the lips were still dry, but the cracks were healing. Day 10, I had more bouts of queasiness. More bouts of queasiness. I felt kind of unsteady and just kind of not right all day. Couldn't really define it as being sick or just kind of not well. I don't know how else to explain it, you know, just not right. Still the tongue. Saturday, still the tongue. Sunday, the tongue, and then my eyes started watering on Sunday. Monday, and it's the same thing. the rest of the week. Yesterday, the tongue and the eyes. Today, the tongue and the eyes. This morning, I did have one bout of dizziness. I was actually in my chair at work, sitting down, should be fine. And it was like, all I did was look up, and I didn't even move my head. I just looked up, and everything just spun around. And so I don't know what that was. But, you know, it seems like the side effects have pretty much narrowed down to the head throbbing, the neck itching, and the dry lips. I think the tongue thing, the taste, I'm not going to have any taste probably for at least a month or two until after I finish the chemo. I think that's just pretty much gone. The fuzzy tongue feeling is, you know, I'll get that back again with the next chemo, I'm sure. And like right now, it's kind of starting to go away. The fuzziness part is going away. But, you know, in a week I'm going to have another one, and it's going to happen again. I hate that fuzzy tongue feeling. So I think those are pretty much the main things. You know, and have like a day of just feeling kind of tired and worn out and not really myself, I guess. So far I haven't had the chemo fog happen. I don't know if that's something that I'm going to avoid, or if it's going to happen after the last chemo when it's kind of all building up. That's pretty much it, I think. I'm looking forward to it being my last chemo. I'm not looking forward to the chemo itself, but I'm looking forward to the fact that it's my last one. And while I realize that mine have not been as extreme as some are, I know there are some people that I see there that they come every week. So mine could be so much worse, and I do realize that. So even when I'm spouting off these side effects, I hope you realize that these could be nothing compared to something you might go through. And you have to kind of take into account the kind of chemo you're having, the kind of cancer you have, your biometrics, you know, whether you're in the positive, negative, you know, what stage of cancer you are, your system yourself, you know. I've always been a fairly healthy person. I don't get the, you know, I get like once a year I would get strep throat, which after I had my tonsils out, that went away. I might get a cold each year, you know, each winter I might get a cold, but for the most part I'm a fairly healthy person. And so if you're somebody who gets sick a lot, that might be, I don't know if that's connected or not, but you know, your own system is going to react differently. But I'm doing these videos to kind of give you a guideline as to what kinds of things actually happen. And these are the kind of things I couldn't find when I was looking, you know, before I started chemo and wanted to know, well, you know, what am I in for? What kind of things am I looking at? And even if it were the worst dire possibilities of, you know, being sick every day, I wanted to see people talking about it, not just read some report that somebody wrote up, you know, some society or some doctor. I wanted firsthand experience, and that's what I wasn't finding. And so that's why I did this. And, you know, if it helps somebody in a year or 2 years or 3 years, then yay. But you know, if it does help, click the like button down below, subscribe. I'm also starting to, I'm trying to figure out all this YouTube stuff, so I'm like adding things as I go along. I figured out how to add a donate button or banner or something for the American Cancer Society. So if you can donate a few dollars to them, click on that, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.